Tokyo, Japan. My name is Gary Verheller, and I'll be your host for what we call the Substance of Living podcast. Today, we'll look at what we call life's lessons. And I hope this will provide you with some insight, maybe even some inspiration to life's challenges. Welcome to episode 61, part 2 of 3, Dependence, Independence, Interdependence. And in this episode, we're going to look at independence. According to the dictionary, independence means free from control or obligation. No one is truly independent, though. A lot of times you hear people say that, and I talked about in the last episode about being an infant. Every person has been an infant. You depended on other people. You weren't independent. Your survival, your literal life depended on somebody feeding you, somebody cleaning you, somebody clothing you, somebody protecting you. You would not survive without having someone to take care of you. So nobody's really independent. Okay. Plus, everyday life, you're dependent on people for your everyday activities. The person that drives a subway car, you're dependent on them to do the job properly and safely to get you from point A to point B. The person that works in the supermarket, you're dependent on them to carefully ring up your items, maybe to bag the items for you or to provide you with information about where things are. You're dependent on people. We're dependent on people all the time. Reality supports us. We are dependent. We're not independent. So I think the first thing to do is acknowledge, I do depend on others. Reality supports me in more ways than I give back. And that's part of life. Now, instead of saying, I'm independent, I think it's much better to say, I'm responsible. I'm responsible for me. I'm responsible for what I do and what I say. And I also think it's important. Part of that responsibility is my responsibility to my family. Because when I do something, I represent not just myself, I represent my family. It goes beyond that, though. I also represent my community. I represent my company. I represent my clients. I represent my family and my friends, my extended family and my friends. I represent all of them. So what I say and what I do reflects on them. So I think being responsible is very important, more important than the idea of being independent. In the last episode, I suggested that we should be less of a burden. And that, to me, being responsible and being less of a burden, that is being more independent. We will always depend on other people. At the same time, it's important to work together, to cooperate. And let me share something here with you about that. Cooperate, collaborate, synergy. Talked about it in other videos. I want to talk about it now. Cooperate is basic working together. And an example I usually give is if you're on the platform waiting for the train or the subway to come, it arrives, people on the platform wait for the people to exit, then they enter the train. That's basic cooperation. That's basic professionalism. So that's cooperate. Collaborate is working together and creating something. That's wonderful. That's really, really essential to a positive life. And then there's synergy. Synergy is working together and creating based upon each member's strengths. Now, not just the strengths. If you have a more diverse team, you have more diverse perspectives. And the likelihood of creativity is even greater. So diversity plays a role there too. And by freely admitting I can benefit by interacting with other people instead of being independent, not being dependent, rather being responsible, contributing what you can, and learning from others, the likelihood of creativity increases exponentially. Collaboration cultivates creativity, cultivates new, novel solutions. And diversity, within that synergy, within that collaboration, is a strength. Diversity is what humans can do to open their eyes to new ideas and to new solutions. So, realize you're dependent on people, be responsible, and welcome diversity. I hope that helps. Bye. Thank you for joining us today for the Substance of Living podcast. If you'd be kind enough to consider subscribing, you can contact us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or connect on Twitter. Join us again next time for what I hope will help you navigate life.